Now I would request Sridhar sir to please take over the session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ashler. Good afternoon, everyone. I think probably whatever we ate is just about to kick in to give us enough somber. So our job is to at least re-emphasize some of the frauds or maybe the benefits. So uh, feel free to ask questions. We will have about 45 minutes conversation. Intend to have about 5 to 7 minutes for the audience questions. We have an eminent panel. We have somebody who's in international payment space with the European and all other countries experience. We have somebody who is on the business side of frauds. Then we have somebody who is day in and day out looking at from a startup, from a credit card standpoint. We have legal, all that kind of policy governance. So it can't be a better panel. So what we do is we will have some preset themes to cover. First of all, how many of us use any of the payment wallets? All right. So almost everybody uses, right? So there is no wonder why even in this year, after all these years, about 60% increase month over month volume of for UPI payments, going to almost 7 billion plus per month, right? So what we will cover is, first of all, it's a great opportunity for India as an economic entity from a payment standpoint, right? We were definitely lagging maybe about 9 years ago compared to our European counterparts, and to some extent, some of the North American counterparts, not necessarily everybody there. But things have changed significantly, right? Maybe somebody who is old enough to say that I've been a banker from 15 years ago, people would have heard about RTGS first time in 2004, probably, right? 2003, 2004, 17, 18 years ago. And that's when the whole thing started. So the first thing we'll talk about is that how each of them see the current digital payment ecosystem in whichever shape and form, whether consumer side or maybe maybe B2B, all that kind of stuff, right? So maybe let me start probably first with you, right? So what's your experience? What do you see, Sunita, in terms of how the digital payment has evolved over the period of time, and particularly your experience of what are the new opportunities we see?
Thank you, Sidhu. Good afternoon, everyone. So let me respond by one Q&A. One techie was asked, who in your organization is the real force behind the rapid digitalization that is taking place? A, the CEO, B, the CIO, C, is it CTO, or D, none of the above? He answered none of the above. Because the real force behind rapid digitalization is COVID-19. Isn't it? So in pre-pandemic era, people, in payment space, there were many organizations who were taking to digital just in a half-hearted manner, or, that Me Too manner, or just to be in the competition. They suddenly realized that their survival itself will be at stake if they do not provide the contactless, anytime, anywhere kind of payments. So this is how the payments started evolving. But for India, it was not so difficult because digital payments were already picking pace. We had demonetization time here also. Many people took to digital, but then slowly they were going back to manual when this thing happened. And then our payment system, they were driven by A, the deep penetration of internet, then surge of smart mobiles in India, C, the RBI and government push they had given, and of course above all is the willingness and the preparedness of our consumer and our businesses to adopt digital. So this was already going on, and this pandemic gave a further thrust to it. So then, crores of Indians, because of contactless, payment, enablement of payments, they were able to observe social distancing and do their payment transactions also. In fact, I was in SBI at that time. We used to talk about card not present transaction, or digital payment or this payment or fast payment or rapid payment, something like this, Another a new word that was coined, healthy way of making payment. Healthy way of, we had never used this word in this context. So this is how it happened. So now the trend which has started, it is irreversible. It is going to go in the up and up only. Now it is for the payment system players, for all of us in the ecosystem, to ensure that safe, secure, reliable, fast, and efficient payments are ensured for our end users. I think I'll end
Yeah.
here. Later.
Summary, I think in the last 15 years, probably I haven't used one time a checkbook, not once in last 15 years. Last 4 years, I don't think when was the last time I went to a bank branch to withdraw money, or ATM for that matter. So everything is here, as long as it is secure, right? That's most important thing. Yeah, Mohit, to you, I know what you see as the opportunity for phenomenal growth in digital payments for India as an ecosystem. This works.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. And Sunita ji has given a very nice picture of that how actually it evolved, because she hails from a banking industry, and actually pandemic has given a real boost to the payment industry. I would say, to adding to Sunita ji's point, I feel we are in a golden age today when it comes to digital payments. I think, if I'm not wrong, and if I could remember the numbers correctly, we would be touching 10 trillion digital payments happening by 2026. And as on date, as in 2021, 40% of the transaction happened to digital payments. But I also see a flip side to it, giving a different perspective. My 10-year-old son knows how to do a digital payment. Is he aware of the nitty-gritties? He is the most vulnerable part of the audience who uses that. Now, having said that, what are we bring? What? So there is a lull which got created with the audience or the population which is using digital payments and the awareness level. And this big lull is actually leading us to the discussion which we are on to today. So I think indeed there is a need to have need to up the ante for having a robust framework towards risk management of cyber fraud and digital payment frauds, and also to create frameworks. So, and this has to interlink, that these has to co-join between different entities, it be banking, it be regulatory, it be aspects. A framework needs to be now put in place so that these fraud related aspects can be curtailed. Indeed, we are at a golden age, but we have to now have some control over that. That's my perspective.
Thanks, Mohit. So let me come to Himanshu. You guys are all over the place. Cred is known everywhere. You're giving so many bonus points to everybody, right? So talk about what you see. Particularly, you ride on the payment gateway, right? So help us understand what you see as the future of digital payments.
First of all, thank you so much, Sidhu, for inviting me to the panel. I'm really happy to be part of this panel, first of all. So I think Sidhu already set the context about the whole credit ecosystem in India, and I think Sunita ma'am has covered a lot, setting the context of overall digital payments in India. I'll touch base a little bit about the credit aspect. I think if you see in context of India, credit is playing a very powerful role in the whole digital economy. If you look at the RBI data today, there are close to 80 million credit card which is active in India, right? Disbursed by top 3 banks in India, HDFC over here, SBI, ICICI, to name few, Axis of course. So overall, credit card is actually playing a very important role in the whole credit ecosystem or digital payments ecosystem in India. And of course, like all of us hold 1 or 2 credit card. And this has become a common part of our daily life, right? And let me give you a very example, a simple example to basically explain how powerful the whole digital payments is in context of India, right? So let's assume that I have my wife's birthday today and I want to gift her a good flower bouquet, right? I go to a supermarket today and buy a flower bouquet of 5,000 rupees, because why not? It's my wife's birthday, right? What I do today is use my credit card, swipe my credit card to a merchant. The payment is made to a merchant. There is of course a payment gateway. The payment goes from merchant to card network, from card network to acquirer bank again pays back to or talks again to the card network again goes back to the issuer bank. So there are a lot of pivot in the whole payment ecosystem, right? It looks very simple to us that I'm just swiping my card in a supermarket, but if you look at the complexity of payment today, it's very, very complex and it's very powerful altogether, right? And there are a lot of pivots where things can go wrong, right? And this gives opportunity for someone who had a wrong intent, or there is a threat actor who is trying to basically take advantage of the whole ecosystem of digital payments. So there's a lot of opportunity for these threat actors to leverage a loophole in each pivot of the whole payment ecosystem, right? And this is extremely important for all of us to understand while we are holding a credit card or while we are using UPI in the country as well, doing a scan and pay and bunch of other things. I think it becomes very important for us to understand what we as an individual are doing, right? So being self-aware is extremely important in the country while we are holding money of our hard-earned money in our pocket and going around and using it around. I think we need to be self-aware of how we are utilizing that and where we are utilizing it, right? So I think this is where people actually need to be self-aware and basically ensure that we are doing right thing, right? So and it gives a lot of opportunity for everyone to basically see how the whole digital economy can boom, right? So I think I'll pass over to rest of the panel member to talk more about.
So Vivek, from your standpoint, you're on the business side, particularly on the payments fraud side of the world. Of course, the most credible stream of income, in addition to interest income, is the service income, right? So, how you have seen in the banking industry today the payment systems and the opportunities? We'll talk about maybe the risks and how we need to safeguard ourselves a little bit later. But how we have seen, and the opportunities for both the customers and the financial institutions in terms of payments.
So, Sidhu, in a very simple terms, let me talk about. We are into the golden hour of the payments. If nobody has seen such an easy way of doing a payments, nobody has seen such a growth of the payments ever in their career, ever in their life. If you ask, he talked about that the 10-year-old kid knows about how to make the payment. Just before 20 years, nobody knows how to use an internet. And now from the internet uses to looking into the things how you can do and holding a credit card, then we have moved on to the journey of doing a transaction online, the POS machines, and thereafter coming down to the now a situation where everything happens in less than a second or milliseconds. And now going to the branch or going to anywhere to do any kind of the transaction is being treated as why I am supposed to waste my time. Today India is a place where we have the highest number of the telecom connections for the people who are using it out. And of course the one thing which we have to always proud about, that every enabler which has been putting into the payment business is the population. We have the second highest population, and which we are going to be the highest in some time. And this population is also consists of lots of people, and there's lots of people are using the payments. They are using loads and loads of the banking services, fintech services to do the transactions, to make their life easy. We are the highest user of the data every day as a population. So the people has lots of power come into their own hands. They know what to do. The regulator is helping them out and digitize anything and everything. Regulator is helping to say, can you do anything and everything on mobile or a browser, so that you need not to go anywhere. That if you talk about the payments, you talk about the transactions, opening a bank account, closing a bank account, going and doing a fees payment, when you talk about the rental payment, anything and everything is today is possible just by sitting at home and doing a transaction. it has forced the companies, not only the banks, but every single company to think and use the digitization as a key objective. Because if you're not going to digitize, you're not going to be there. Because customer is not going to wait for you. The customer is coming up and the customer is demanding and loads and loads of digitization and ease of doing the thing. They want a simplicity. We have seen the Netflix of the world coming in, and frankly speaking, we are in the world where everything and anything is happening right now. Today, out of every 5 transactions which has been happening in the world, 1 is happening in India. And there would be a time we are progressing so fast that from the 1:3 and 1:2, so there would be a time in another 2 to 3 years that every second transactions of the digital transaction will happen in India. So that gives an immense possibility of what the payment is happening and how the people are using it out. It has given an opportunity to so many fintechs. So one of the reasons why we have so much of the technology companies coming and going out in India, we have so many 100+ startups, unicorns happening in India, is one of the main reasons that people are looking forward to enable the technology for the payments and digitization. So wherever the word digital is there, India is there, and the opportunity is there. That's we have right now, and we are in the center of it. And then another 5 years, we are going to be on the top of it.
Thanks, Vivek. So, Sabri, from your side, how wonderful the payment ecosystem is, and then we'll talk about quickly the fraud that we need to be mindful.
Sure. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, thank you, Sidhu. Right. So I think digital payments for that. The foundation for a digital economy is digital payments. And like how we saw earlier when the telcos were looking for laying huge cables for landline connections, we skipped that revolution and jumped on to mobile connections at a much faster pace. The way it is transformed here in the payments ecosystem is that about 7-10 years ago, governments were looking at getting people on to register bank accounts, but then we have fast-tracked that directly to more on to digital right now, because now having to make a digital payments requires people to have some accounts as such, and that is fast-track adoption of people wanting to have bank accounts right now, right? So it is transformed quite a way in which that the customer is demanding all of this, that has forced businesses and merchants to look at innovative ways to offer some of these capabilities as well. And if you look at merchants, they are looking at offering capabilities like buy now, pay later, or browse now, pay later, right? Or collect later but pay now. They're offering so many varieties of payments, all influenced by what the customer wants, right? So absolutely, I think the title also is very aptly named as Unimaginable Possibilities. We never thought these could happen, but they are now reality nowadays.
And in the process, there are unicorns in the space too.
Very well
right?
so.
If you look at 100+ unicorns, I think a significant portion comes from the payment ecosystem anyway. So so good discussion. We know that and as everybody said, we are in the golden or maybe platinum, whatever era we are in payments. I can tell my personal experience, right? I have both my wife, my 2 daughters, they have their own phones and digital wallets. The best thing for me is that I know every penny that gets used in how and where, which is not the case. If I were to give my kid maybe a pocket money, we don't necessarily know how that is used. So that's, for me as a father, is a great benefit. In addition to, so let's talk about some of the, with every possible opportunity comes risks too, right? And it's important to understand those risks and manage to the extent possible so that the opportunities are not, not going wasted. So from that standpoint, let me start probably from this side this time, right? So what are the key themes of risk, whether you want to cover on the B2C side or maybe customer, peer transfer of money, or maybe, industry to industry player to industry player, however you want to look at it. What are the risks, patterns of risk or fraud risk that you see?
So, what I want to touch upon is I come from the tech space as such. So, online marketplaces are booming quite a lot nowadays. So now, for the digital economy, everybody is implementing a lot of digital systems, etc., which forces them to use some digital technologies as such, and they're all making purchases online. One of the things what we have seen is that this concept of triangulation, where when somebody is making a purchase online, the hacker actually hijacks the transaction in a way that it simulates the behavior as if the customer is actually making a genuine transaction, but then hijacks that and then be able to commit a fraud as such in the process, right? So this is something which, from a technology space, which we are seeing quite often, because we come from that same industry space, from marketplace space. And aside to that, I'm sure there are eminent experts in the financial BFSI space who will be talking a lot more about that as well.
Absolutely. So, from both from business and technology, whatever risks that you see, Vivek, what are the risks without maybe spilling out any sensitive information whatsoever?
So, if you ask me about the uncontrollable frauds, it is also as a byproduct of the digitization. And the one thing which we and the entire population has missed out is, by on the race of doing a digitization, we didn't teach the people how to use it properly. That's a one piece which we are able to see one of the gap, that people know how to use the wallets, people know how to use the different apps, but they don't know how to secure the data. They don't know how many permission they are giving when they are subscribing to it, what information can go out. They are unaware about how the things can go wrong. They are unaware about how the digital loans can kill them if it is being not taken from the right people. If they do not understand how their hard-earned money being put into one of the bank account is being just taken off if they give the details to somebody else. So it is only about the question of the awareness and awareness. Unless and until the customer is aware, we can't save anything. What we can enable, so as all of us can do from the technology, business and all the perspectives, do the right kind of authentications, make sure that the people are available, people whom you're speaking down to, take care of everything. So from our perspective, we can do everything right. The similar thing we expect from the customer also, to know the things very well, so that they also can do and probably right behavior. We can safeguard them by putting some kind of the controls, velocity checks controls. The Google people can go and verify that whether their name is getting misused over there with the wrong tagging. There are n number of the things as a controls which organizations can do. But the most critical thing, even though doing some 100 things, the one thing which everybody has to do is educate the people. We are a country where the education and the literacy rate was earlier low. Then we become a country where the financial literacy rate was low. And now we are a country where the digital literacy rate is absolutely low. So the first thing is, we need to make the people literate about how to use it properly, and which of course we are doing it out. Many of my other member banks are doing it, fintech partners are doing it, to make and including the RBI, they are doing lots of bit to make sure that to increase the awareness part. But awareness is the only one piece to make sure that everybody is aware what they're doing and how to control by themselves. RBI is also pushing a lot of things to ensure that the control goes to the hands of the customer. For an example, the card control, whether you can switch on and switch off the limits, switch on and switch off the type of transaction you can do. Every control, they want the customer to do it rather than anybody else deciding for them. That kind of the control gives you a lots of power. But at the same time, whether the customer knows how to use that power effectively, when to use it, when to switch on, when to switch off, that is extremely, extremely important. And that's where our role also comes in. Rather than securing everything for the customer, what are the best we can do with the upgrading of the technology? The second thing is to keep everybody aware how to use it properly. So that's where we see.
That's true. I mean, I can relate to, you can have a debit card or a credit card, but you have the option not to enable online transactions.
Yes.
Which was not the case earlier. So that means the power is in the customer's hand, but the understanding of the features and then the ability to use it, right? I can tell to that extent, awareness is one part. The second thing is, the mood at which we are in a given day and what information we get. I know the story of somebody who is highly educated, but in the midst of some bad day, somebody called posing one of the banks and asked for some information to clarify whether this is the truth. Ended up giving all the information within minutes. SIM cloned, transaction happened, no messages came in. Then when they uncloned it and then it's enabled back, in a matter of 15 minutes, about 1,60,000 rupees gone from the bank account.
Yep.
Highly educated technology person, but in the midst of a wrong day, things can happen. So let's come to Himanshu, frauds.
Right.
What are you seeing from your experience standpoint?
Right. So if you talk about frauds, right, so largely it comes down again to money, right? And when you, Vivek actually touched base on the situational awareness and the literacy, financial literacy aspect. I want to touch base a little bit on the technology aspect, right? So today, if you look from a technology point of view, when it comes to fraud, I think when you look at the whole money movement within the technology, right, it is very complex. Systems are very complex. And one of the key important aspect is around the shared responsibility model, right? On how are basically fintech players, banks, card networks, payment gateways actually doing their due diligence on their side, right? And as we also touched on the regulatory aspect, a lot of this regulatory actually plays an important role on defining the rules of the game, right? And who are actually responsible for what side of payments, right? And while the money movement is very complex, the technology is very complex. I think it is a very disciplined practice on how the whole data aspect is actually playing into picture, right? Eventually, it comes down to money moving from one system to another system comes down to data, right? And today, what I have seen from the technology perspective is actually a lot of company are actually investing a lot in data science today, right? On understanding the behavior, understanding the situational awareness, understanding how they can work with large amount of data to make sense of the data, right? And for example, like we spoke about the velocity checks, I think it is one of the common behavior where fintechs or banks can look at the trend for a period of time and make a decision, right? So a lot of the decision making needs to happen at each layer in the payment ecosystem, right? And technology plays a very, very important part when it comes to fraud, right? Understanding the anomalies, understanding the user behavior patterns, how are money moving from one system to another system, from banks to card networks to fintech provider to application. So all these behavior actually on top of getting general awareness plays a very, very important role, and that's my take on it, Sidhu.
Yeah, I mean, imagine in a less than probably 0.5 seconds, at least half a dozen stakeholders in the system of transaction processing, and in this half a dozen stakeholders, multiple departments with the policy automation, enabling everything, and even giving the context of even a healthy way of probably making a payment. Phenomenal. So, coming to you, Mohit, frauds. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Sidhu, I just give you one example. An incident happened with me. A person who hails from information security. So once I was kind of driving at 12 in the night, my mobile started ringing. Not ringing, that message started popping up. Since I was driving, I could not see that. But since it was so frequent, I parked my car at the bay and I just looked at it. There was 60,000 already gone. Transaction happened. I'm referring to someone who understands the nitty-gritty of technology, who understands digital payments, who knows the risk. So I want to break it down into two parts. There are two types of risk. One, directly impacting the users, end users. One, at the organization. At the end users, there are people, to give you a parlance, there are people who are driving Ferrari and does not even know when to apply brakes, and even there is a brakes to apply or not. Means the awareness is something which needs to be brought in, that what are the nitty-gritties, what are the aspects of misuse or what can go wrong, right? At the organization side of it, I hail from Perfios. We work a lot of BFSI customers. Ma'am is well aware of that. We are day in, day out are identifying new type of frauds happening in the industry. I just give you a new flavor. There are people who are now stealing your credit score. They don't steal your identity. They don't steal anything. Since you have a good credit score, so they'll just steal your credit score and they'll use it for yours. So this is a new type of fraud which has now come up. they are growing intelligent day by day. They are using those novice ideas. We have seen web series like Jamtara and all. So we know what state we are standing at. Hence, so my take is, though my esteemed panels have already highlighted about awareness, but awareness at the grassroots level where it is reaching. As I said, my 10-year son know how to do a digital payment, but he does not know the nitty-gritties or the risk side of that. So that level which we have to go to, awareness level which we have to pump in. So that's my take to it. So,
So maybe from your side, Sunita, we talked about multiple, types of frauds, but one thing that is different that you have seen, of course, the one is interesting part is somebody's credibility is stolen to actually get something, which is credit score, right? From your standpoint, what are a couple of themes?
Apart from this credit score stealing, okay, if I say mostly how the fraudsters work, okay, once we know the modus operandi that they are adopted, it's kind of doable to safeguard your accounts and your apps if you are an app provider, what you can do. So trying to understand the mindset of fraudsters, they have three access vectors. One is phishing, second, vulnerability exploitation, and third is brute force. So when I say phishing, it is I'm including the phishing, that voice phishing or smishing or even social engineering. That is one part. Secondly, it is the vulnerability or exploitation. It could be at the mobile app level, which is increasing with each passing day because mobile usage is exponentially increasing. So mobile apps are being targeted. So it could be vulnerability in mobile app, it could be in operating system, it could be in your network, it could be in your Wi-Fi. So all these things. And third is the brute force. Brute force is where mass attacks they are doing, and that could be malware introduction, that could be even mass scale data breach. So where credit cards data of many of the people, they are taken, their credentials are stolen, and then they are sold in the market. So that way these three access factors are there, and based on that, the fraudsters, they are carrying out the frauds. Now what happens? Many organizations, they have understood that part B and part C, it is their job. That is, they have to fix the vulnerabilities in their applications or the operating systems or their network, etc. And the third part also, brute force also, these people are learning, artificial intelligence is being used, and human, that how to prevent these kind of attacks. And the A part, that phishing part, phishing, smishing, and for that user awareness is being spread, but then that is not sufficient. Another very interesting thing is, apart from these three things, there are certain areas which are gray areas, for which blame game has been going on. I'll tell you some examples, like screen mirroring. Okay, screen mirroring is there. Second is that key log. Okay, then you can say many such things. The screenshots have been taken. So then customer keeps on pleading, I didn't share my OTP, I didn't share my password, nothing happened. And I didn't click on any email link also. Now he has not done any of these. But then he has shared his screen itself. So his password, credentials, everything is stolen. His SMS, he need not share it. That the customer is not aware. He tells his bank that you kept on educating me, don't share your OTP, don't share this, that, I didn't do that. So, these are the gray areas where customer expects that the banks or the mobile app provider will strengthen the app in such a way that it gives me a warning. Look, you are using say a jailbroken device. Look, this is the risk. Don't use our app. Second is, look, while you are using the app, you are trying to make payment, somebody is video recording it. Or when you are logging into the application, somebody is. So customer expects that you, the app provider, should give this, whereas the banks or the organizations, they expect that no, customer should be educated enough. So maybe in the next round, I'll say what is the solution to all this. Customer education, fine, but up to what extent? Maybe.
Yeah. So let's talk about that right away because we have about 11 minutes. So quickly, one question on how the ecosystem stakeholders, whether the end user who is doing the transaction processing are the ecosystem players, right? What is that collectively can do to at least manage these frauds happening? Then we will probably look at law enforcement as one option quickly. Then after that, we will have about 4 minutes maybe for a couple of questions. So if you have any questions, we'll do that. So let's talk about how we can arrest some of the frauds.
So you want me to continue? Okay,
Sure.
quickly. I'll do it as fast as possible. See, first of all, the app providers, the application providers, they have to understand that if they want to build security in their application through their developers, forget it. I mean, this is not the way. The way frauds are evolving and the way they are getting so sophisticated with each passing day, I think try hiring services of those. There are many vendors available now. RASP is there, real-time application, self-protection mode is there. So hire those solutions and build into your application. That is one. So for other things also, hire security experts solutions rather than building your own, and you will have a faster go to market also. Second is have intensive this customer awareness campaign. I pity the banks who send me 4 times a message in the day, don't share your OTP. I mean, go beyond that also. OTP is not the only way. Third, RBI has taken a very good initiative of CPFIR. I appeal to all those bankers sitting here and all those payment system players sitting here, kindly be active in CPFIR, because that is the only way. CPFIR, for those who, the centralized payment fraud information registry. So anywhere, if a fraud takes place despite 3 or 4 measures I told, then immediately the message should go to the beneficiary, and beneficiary bank, and beneficiary bank stops the puts a hold on the beneficiary's account. So even if the fraud has occurred, the funds will be blocked there. That will happen only if everybody participates.
Yeah.
RBI did this in April 2020, but
Yeah.
so far, many banks, they have not implemented it. Sure. And unless everybody implements it, this is of no use.
Yeah.
And then another purpose, just last I'll say, CPFIR, what it can do is that negative list of those accounts, where the funds are being sent. See, ultimately, whatever frauds happen, the funds are being sent somewhere. So those negative lists can also be prepared by CPFIR. So please cooperate in that. That is my another request. Please go ahead.
Interesting
I know there's
observation.
limited time.
Let me
yeah,
ask.
it's okay.
How many of you here are non-technology people? Show of hands. Everybody, right? By the way, she is not a core technology person, but she talked about the most critical, security concepts like, RASP. So the point is, if you have interest to learn, right, opportunities like this, anybody can learn cybersecurity. So that's my spiel on getting more people into cyber. So let's change the gear. I know we thought of probably covering some of the policy matters, but considering we have about 7 minutes, let's talk about collectively each one of you, right? We know there are opportunities, we know there are risks, there are ways to some of the, ways to reduce frauds, but still they do happen, right? So in that, there is a role for law enforcement agencies too. So from each one of you, maybe we'll start from this side now. So could you please speak to, what you see law enforcement role going to be or need to be to address the last mile challenges of fraud management?
Sure. I think if you look at policing from a government perspective, you see a lot of physical infrastructure of polices and police stations across the country where people really get confidence when you see policemen out there to say that I am more secure, etc., in the sense that they see a lot of physical presence there. The chances of any fraud happening in that of physical premises is probably a little bit less because there's visible presence of police there, right? But probably on the cyberspace, it may be worth doing a lot more on that, bringing more aware, because a lot of people, vulnerable people, let's say during COVID times, somebody was asked, pay me 40,000 for getting this particular injection, right? And they caught that most vulnerable person at that time. That person lost the money, he did not get the injection, but he didn't have anywhere to go to find a solution for his problem, right? So going back to your point about law enforcement, making more aware of how people can seek help if they are victimized is something which law enforcement agencies should work on. And I think organizations like DSAI, I think, we talked a little bit earlier with one of our colleagues as well. They were mentioning that they are working with judiciary directly to train them, and DSPs and police officers to train them on some of these as well. Because somebody who is out there in the street, a policeman, he may not necessarily be fully be aware of some of the sophisticated frauds what are happening, right? So a lot of things could be done on that front. And I think organizations, including financial services organizations also could do a little bit more on that front to be able to create that awareness. I think the common theme which I'm hearing all the time is, there is people, process, and technology. The weakest link is always the people element there. So it's about creating that awareness and working with, and law enforcement agencies can do a lot more on that front.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to probably train more police. Every state police is actually doing that these days, because I heard last time almost 80% of the either criminal or non-criminal complaints that come to police, 80% of them have one or the other evidence related to electronic evidence. So which means that more and more cases need to be managed through digital forensics, right? So from your standpoint, Vivek.
So I deal with the law enforcement as a part of my job on a day in, day out, and I'm doing for the last 2 decades. So perhaps I can take a minute more on that part. The first law enforcement training which is being conducted in India was in 2001. And that point of time, when we come to the room with the lots of senior policemen and so inspector and above were there, the first question was, how many of you have seen the credit card? And out of 150 people, only 4 people raise the hand and say, I have seen a credit card. So that was a time when the fraud training or the training to the police officers started. We are being almost 2 decades from now. And if you ask me today, we are in a very, very nice space, specifically if I talk about the cyber policing kind of the perspective, and in a positive way. Because most of the places in India and most of the states of India has their state-of-art cyber police stations. We started seeing that kind of the good piece into the Maharashtra, Mumbai first, then it has come down to the Bangalore, then now Telangana has come up with an extremely big and the state-of-art infrastructure for the cyber police. So every single place, and I don't know, many people know or not, the entire east of India, the first cyber police station was opened in Jamtara, and much before when the web series has come. So that was the kind of the thing which is being there. So whether the police officers and whether they have the right police officers, yes, we have seen now directly the IPS are directly recruited into the cyber police job. They are directly being given that, yes, you are responsible for it. They are coming up with a new kind of the ideas. The people who are engineering graduates, taken an IPS degree and now directly coming into the cyberspace, and they are questioning a lot. They are asking for every single process why this is happening, and that's a good thing to happen, because they are being asking also that why this process is not getting changed. We have the forums which is being developed by the police at a state level or now at the regional level, which is north, east, west and south, and they are also having their own conferences where they are calling the banks, they are calling the fintechs, and they are asking the questions over there, why can't you do this or why can't you do that? So that's a very nice thing to happen. Coming back to the more operational part, the law enforcement people are actually solving a loads of cases. They are trying and see the last mile where the money has been going, making sure that that has been taken care of. That is purely only from the money part, but they are also dealing with a lots of cyber related crimes as well, which includes extortions and other things, and lots of the domestic violence cases they are able to identify through that. So now the way they have started with the cyber, it is suppose from the payment perspective, now they are moving into every aspect is coming into that. The need for the cyber forensic investigators has been increasing, just because lots of things are happening. Every state is now having a dedicated cell for the cyber forensic piece. So are they doing enough? Of course, with the population of our size and the crime rate of our size and the cyber frauds of our size, it's always going to be short. But are they upgrading themselves well? Yes, they are doing. what we need is properly is the data privacy frameworks. What we need properly is how to regulate them as well, that how they are able to reach down and reduce the number of the cases for the public. The public is still have a way of going back to the police station. One of the best piece which has happened recently is on the Ministry of Home Affairs. They have given a simple portal, cybercrime.co.in, where you can go and report it out. And once you report it over there, you don't require to file any other police complaint. Reporting itself over there take care of that part. But how many people actually know about it? That once you report it over there, your money will be safeguarded, the beneficiary will be the control, and the police complaint itself is not needed, no FIR needed. That gives a lots of comfort to the person who is already grieving because of the loss of the money. So that kind of the things is in the very, very positive direction. Ministry of Home Affairs are doing a lots of session with the law enforcement and others to reduce the impact. But of course, the size of the problem is big. So the efforts are there. Hopefully, we will be able to see much more things coming into this.
Yeah, I think we are on top of the hour. Maybe if you don't mind for the other panel members, we committed that we'll take questions. Maybe there are already 3, 4, 5 questions. I don't know how much time DSCI will give us. Okay, first person raised on the other side. Yeah. Anybody from banking industry can probably take, maybe I should, yeah.
Okay, I think point very well taken, and I think though Vivek has talked about various initiatives taken, there is yet lot of work to be done. This point needs to be included. Another one from my side. How many here think that when criminals are caught, first of all, very few criminals are caught, and whereas we read about frauds daily, once in a while we read about people getting caught. It should be made non-bailable. That is my vote. It should be made non-bailable because they again go back. They are released on bail and again they are indulging in fraud and these activities. So that is my suggestion apart from what this gentleman has said.
One last question, please.
So
We are already out
so
of
my
time.
question is on the technologist. So while the panelist has mentioned about the golden era of payments and it has opened the unprecedented frauds in terms of the numbers. So what is the silver bullet in terms of the technology or collection of technology so that we can contain the frauds?
Silver bullet of technology, you already
Technology
said
or
silver
collection
bullet.
of technology?
let the folks on the technology side answer
I
that.
wish we had. So I wish we had. But I would take a small detour with technology, but I feel something which is need of the hour is kind of open data for fraud data repository. India is moving toward account aggregation, if you all are aware of. On a similar lines, if we create a regulatory level repository of fraud data which can be shared among entities, because if these frauds are not bound by geography nor by time, right? So interplay between entities with this data sharing can curtail a lot of things. And answering to your question, sir, that there is something happening at one of the banks. Has that data been shared with other entities? If possibly someone else, though you would have already gone through some pain, but as someone
like the WOFAC list, where you will say that, okay, if you are across the world, wherever you are, if you are part of the WOFAC list, you can't get
That's
access
correct.
to money system, right? Yeah. I know we are on top of the hour.
I just
Sorry
want to
for-
add, sorry, Sridhar, I just want to
Sure.
add one more important thing, right? So today when you talk about fraud, right, the time when fraud is detected, from that time, starting from that time to the time fraud gets reported, to the time the fraud gets actioned, to the time there is some real root cause known, this whole time is undeterministic today, right? And the whole information dissemination is not happening today, right? Even on the technology side of things, I think things get blocked and the whole information dissemination does not happen, right? And I think Sekar spoke about threat intelligence platform. I think that whole system itself is broken today is what I feel, right? And I think at the base level, at the root level, that needs to be fixed on how fast you can move the whole system, right? From one starting by the time the fraud gets reported or detected to the time the RCA is identified, right? So once I think we start by acknowledging this and fixing the system, I think we as a technology provider can do a lot, right? And data again, as you mentioned, becomes
So
a
technically,
very
we have a microseconds to make the payment transaction, but takes, I don't know, unknown time to fix the issues. So just to summarize, we all agree that we are definitely in the brightest era when it comes to digital payments, whether it is at the end consumer or maybe interbank payments with maybe DLT as a technology. We're not talking about it, right? Those are the great opportunities, possibilities. With great opportunities, you also get to see the risk. We have seen some of them. Thank you. Some of you have given some inputs. At the same time, it is important that the stakeholders, whether financial institutions, intermediaries, fintechs, end customers, everybody need to play their part to make sure that this bandwagon of a best possible digital payment systems that we have in India sustains its momentum. Yeah, I mean, we always can talk about, yeah, I mean, cash in the, in the hands of people is significantly more than what pre-pandemic is. But that is one part of it. But still, the transactions, digital transactions is still increasing. So there are two sides of it, but we can only make that better by our own behaviors. So thank you for being a great audience. And sorry, we ran out of time for about, we'll take the offline questions because they will throw us out. Right? So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
thank you everyone.